You ever have one of those mornings where you think it's going to be quiet? Just you, a cup of coffee, the smell of spring grass, and maybe the sound of a lazy bull snoring under the sun? That was me. I had one hand on a salt block, dragging it toward the eastern fence line, and the other wrapped around a steaming mug. That's when I heard it. A high-pitched mechanical whine that didn't belong anywhere near a pasture. I turned just in time to see Karen-eyed yoga pants, mirrored sunglasses, and fury in her posture swinging a leaf blower like it was a flamethrower from the suburbs. She was aiming it straight at Buckshot, my 1,000-pound Hereford bull, who barely lifted his head before letting out a fart that made the wind chime on the porch ring. I called out over the noise, asking if she'd lost her damn mind. She screamed something about bylaws, wellness zones, and contamination, all while waving that blower like she was summoning suburban justice from the sky. And in that exact moment, I knew. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was war. See, the back edge of my ranch butts up against what used to be open prairie. It had been in my family since before the highway, before the gas station, even before the post office. We had a legal grazing easement that gave us full rights to rotate cattle through that stretch. Nobody had ever cared until South Willow Estate showed up, with vinyl fences, beige paint mandates, and a president named Karen who apparently thought cows were the devil. The incident with the leaf blower was just the opening act. A few days before that, I'd let 30 head mostly Angus and Hereford Cinto the eastern pasture. Grass was green, air smelled like honeysuckle, and for once everything was right. Until Ted, my neighbor on the HOA side, called me laughing. Said I might want to come see what was happening near the boundary. I walked over, and there they were. 5 HOA board members in matching polos and boat shoes, pacing along the fence line like they were preparing for an alien autopsy. One was snapping photos. Another whispered into a walkie-talkie. Karen, naturally, was poking the soil with her sneaker like the ground had personally offended her. I waved, tried to play nice. She spun around like she was auditioning for a soap opera. "Do you know your cows are trespassing?" she hissed. I chuckled. Thought she was joking. She wasn't. She pointed at my pasture and said, "This is HOA-managed green space reserved for yoga and herbal gardening." I explained calmly about the grazing easement. She turned red, said it was private property now, and that cows had no place near civilized areas. I asked if she thought farms were uncivilized. She said, and I quote, "No, just aesthetic pollutants." That evening, I found cartoon flyers stuck to my truck windshield, mailbox, and fence post. A cow with a big red X, and the words, "HOA says no moo zone." Signed, in bold, Karen Delaney, Community Livability Chair. My wife laughed so hard she cried. Me? I didn't laugh, because I knew exactly where this was heading. 2 days later, I came back from the feed store and there it was, an 8-foot-tall iron fence, motion sensor sprinklers, decorative planters, and a sign that said, HOA lawn. Livestock prohibited. Behind that fence, my legal grazing land. My cattle stood there confused, lowing and pacing, not understanding why their spring feast was blocked. One calf got tangled in netting, had to wrestle it free. I called animal control, they said it was a civil matter. I called the sheriff, shrugged, and told me to take it to court. Karen raised a wine glass from her porch in mock salute. Next morning, my water line was cut, dug up, and capped. The new sprinkler system was using my source. My troughs were dry. 2 calves showed signs of heat stress. I had to haul water manually and pray it was enough. Karen strutted around like she'd just won the Kentucky Derby. Then came the final straw. 2 HOA workers, neon vests, post-hole digger in hand, started driving stakes into the pasture. When I confronted them, they said Karen gave the go-ahead. That night, a teenage neighbor handed me a flash drive. It had footage of Karen pointing at my land, saying, "Just do it tonight." He's too old school to have drone footage. Turns out she was wrong. I didn't sleep that night. I gathered everything: drone images, historical deeds, old maps, receipts from the vet. My niece, Lacey, was home from law school for the summer. She walked in, saw me buried in documents, and asked what I was doing. I looked up and said, "Getting ready to sue." She smiled. "Good. I'll draft the complaint." We filed under agricultural interference, trespassing, defamation, and easement obstruction. While Karen doubled down sending manure-scented flyers and calling local radio shows to paint me as a cow terrorist who worked quietly. The state agricultural office sent a letter confirming our ranch as part of the emergency beef reserve. We weren't just feeding cows. We were part of food security infrastructure. That changed everything. Karen thought she was playing HOA chess, but we were playing constitutional checkmate. The court date arrived. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, read the charges. Jeffers versus South Willow HOA. Karen's lawyer gave a dramatic monologue about modern suburbia and safety and traumatized children. Then Lacey stood, calm as dawn, and said 5 words. The land was never theirs. She showed the easement, the drone footage, the state letter. She played the video of Karen ordering workers to break the law. She even brought in the retired county surveyor who mapped our land back in the 60s. Every piece of evidence stacked higher than Karen's wine budget. Karen insisted on taking the stand, said my cows stared at her child, claimed the manure ruined her lavender garden. Then she said, sometimes you have to break the rules to protect a vision. The courtroom went dead silent. The judge wrote something down. We knew then. We had it. Verdict? We won. Fence had to come down. Water access restored. Public apology issued. Damages paid. And best of all, a permanent injunction preventing the HOA from touching the grazing path ever again. Back home, we grilled steaks and turned the music up. But it wasn't over. The HOA's insurance refused to pay, citing willful misconduct. Dues skyrocketed. People revolted. Homes went up for sale. That's when Derek, the soft-spoken realtor I met at court, called me. You want to buy the land behind enemy lines? 3 homes bordering my easement. 1 right across from Karen's. I said yes. 1 house became Lacey's legal office for helping other landowners. Another, a guest house for visiting ranchers. The 3rd, I kept empty. For a reason. The next HOA meeting, I showed up what's polished, clipboard in hand. Karen froze. I raised my hand and said, as a property owner, I move for new leadership elections. We had the signatures. We had the momentum. And 2 weeks later, in the same hall where Karen once called my bull a public menace, Lacey was elected HOA president. Karen? Out. Investigated for misused funds. Fined. Banned from leadership for 5 years. The fence was replaced with a pavilion. My cattle roamed freely again. Kids fed calves. Neighbors waved. And the co-op store I opened in that empty house. It sold beef, eggs, honey, and jam. Part of the profits went to scholarships for AG students. And one Saturday, Karen's own granddaughter showed up to volunteer. Sweet girl. Never mentioned her grandmother. Just helped with chores and said, cows are awesome. That fall, our community had changed. The HOA became a partner, not a punisher. News outlets came. Called us a model of rural-suburban cooperation. But me? I think it was simpler. We fought to stay on the land we belonged to. Months later, I passed Karen walking her dog near the pasture. She paused by the fence. No yelling. No clipboard. Just tired eyes. I nodded. She nodded back. Maybe that was her way of saying, you won. Or maybe it was just acceptance. I walked back through the field that evening, the sun bleeding behind the hills, cattle calm, earth soft. I thought about my grandfather. About the tree he used to sit under, planning grazing routes. About how land holds memory, not just through deeds and boundaries, but through care. We didn't just win a lawsuit. We reclaimed something deeper. And funny enough, it all started with a leaf blower. Now tell me, have you ever had to fight for land your family always belonged to? Do you think HOAs should have that kind of power over working land? Let me know down in the comments. Because I'm guessing I ain't the only one with a story like this.